The trifecta of beautiful design is good typography, good negative space, and good alignment. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about alignment more in the context of product design, interface design, app design. We've talked a lot about alignment with typography, like left edge alignment or the implicit grid alignment. But I want to talk a little bit more about how that specifically can influence the way that you would design interface components directly inside of an app, because sometimes alignment can have certain meaning, like a parent-child relationship for a title and some content. So let's just dig straight into an example and take a look. All right, so this is a conceptual design that I did for the Red cameras. And I put all of this together specifically to have something to reference for different things that I wanted to talk about. And I think that this lends itself really nicely to alignment. And specifically with this form here, now on this page, I'm very specifically, trying to nail a certain style. And most of that style is kind of using this big, beefy text that kind of goes along with the imagery. But also I think that the hard left aligned edge just kind of adds to that kind of, in your face kind of attitude, because these are more of like the bad boy cameras of the camera industry, if that's even a thing. And I think that it's not that center align couldn't work, but having that hard edge of the left kind of goes along with the hard edge of the top and the bottom with the blocky typeface that kind of mimics the way these cameras are kind of blocky. So right off the bat, I know that I want to use kind of a square, kind of like wide formatted alignment to kind of just emphasize the wide and blocky nature of the cameras. It just feels like it makes sense to me for this particular project. So even for the pagination that would happen, if you were to scroll through multiple cameras, you could imagine scrolling through these or swiping through these, and all of our little, this would possibly light up. It's kind of hard to show the interaction there. I haven't linked up the animated prototype, but you could imagine if there were 5 images here, this would be the active image, and this would be the, these gray pieces here would be the inactive. But again, all of these are aligned left edge and right edge. Same with the 20 pixels here and 20 pixels here. I'm trying to define like a really sharp left align that just adds to that quality that I'm going for. But then down here in the form, you have to choose your sensor before you can actually purchase this camera. So the problem here, if I was gonna go left aligned all the way and not have something like that, this doesn't quite look like these belong to choose your sensor. And even though I'm using 15-point font, now if I wanted to do this with only typography, then I might have to make this something like that size. Now this clearly says, hey, choose your sensor. And these are it's a little bit more explicit that these Monstro, Helium, all of these belong to choose your sensor. But I didn't really want to vary the typeface that much. I kind of wanted to go big and then very kind of technical and kind of even and keep it pretty plain and kind of almost like a techie readout of the information. And the only thing I have bigger here is the price. And honestly, that could probably even stay at 15. I could leave all of this stuff at 15 and that could still technically work. But the only reason that works for this form is because I've actually gotten this stuff is shifted over and the alignment is broken just a little bit from the text alignment. So the text isn't really, the alignment's not really broken because we're still carrying this sharp alignment down the left edge. But just that simple 20 pixels, I've got 20 pixels to the title and then bumping it in another 20 pixels on the side, that just kind of indicates, okay, this stuff belongs underneath that heading. And I like the idea of being able to have these big blocky selection elements that go along with the big blocky style, as opposed to just putting like a check mark on the far right or using color only. So I'm using color and this big blocky tap pattern that would just be easy to use, and it's unmistakable as to which one of these is selected. Sometimes you might have these lists with the small little check, and you can tell that it's selected, but it might be a little bit disconnected. So I wanted to put something in here that was kind of big and beefy that kind of represented what the cameras seem to represent. And the way that that works is by, scooting that over and putting this around it. So now I have a new left edge alignment right in here. And I'm not using a big grid. I'm not pulling in a bunch of lines and trying to adhere to a grid. It's just a simple implicit grid rule, but it is aligning all of these objects just to say, okay, these are all connected. And that kind of gives my interface a certain quality that makes it a little bit easier to read out what's going on in this particular section. And then down here, I tried multiple versions here where I wanted maybe the checkbox to go left align there and maybe not quite as far over. But the checkbox there, it almost felt like it started to break the layout, even though we do have these lines here. And this is not necessarily a bad design. It felt like the checkbox needed a little bit more significance, because this is actually quite a large checkbox. If you check this box, you are paying $5,900 in addition to your $54,000 that you're already paying for the camera. So I wanted this to feel like it had a little bit more room and a little, I don't want it too tight up there. So the negative space here is working to give it a little bit more breathing room, but also it's aligned directly in line with this. So as I'm reading the form, I see the checkbox. So I don't have to kind of keep doing this through the form. So on that one section, it's just kind of nice to line that text box up with the inside edge of these. And you could even get in here and start playing with, well, maybe the description is left align, but you can see that starts to make it feel a little bit, I don't know, it's too much kind of waving in and out. So you kind of figure out these rules for alignment as you're designing with the context of the design. And for whatever reason, it feels good to just see the description. It's reading, and then I gotta choose your sensor, and now I have this next section, and then now for quantity as almost like a footer. I have these two titles here, choose your sensor and quantity. And this is another option. We could have done a button down here and quantity could have been really large. I wanted these to align together because you don't really need an input field for one number that's going to be the full width of the screen. So even the number 100 could fit in there if you were going to order a whole bunch of these things. And then instead of doing like a center aligned button, which that could still work, I'm kind of playing around with a left align button here. That way, it's 20 pixels edge. Doing 12 there and then 20 from the sides. And so now that just kind of gives it just kind of gives it like a nice footer feel. So we have the left and the right alignment, and it's just kind of, it's all coming together from the design direction, the typeface selection, and all of those things are kind of driving the desire to be this kind of squatty, blocky design direction. And then that also lets me know, what do I need to do with my alignment? And just kind of keeping these sharp lines. And in general, it's always good to have a nice left alignment with your form. And so this is a good example of that. And then back here on kind of this kind of splash page where you might see some of the, you might have multiple cameras that you're looking at. I'm bringing out these, big numbers to kind of play on some of those crazy technical specifications. But again, I'm using this. I've got this strong left alignment continuing to happen with the accent here, the number, and the thing below. And I'm just trying to again, I'm trying to set up that hard right alignment and that hard left alignment. So if you look right here, the arrow here, and that is all kind of lined up along with, you're not always going to get your text fully justified, but I'm just trying to create that hard left, hard right alignment that kind of, just kind of keeps pushing that concept forward. And then looking over here at this product info section, this might be stuff that's like down below. I kind of designed this as more of an element collage. It's not necessarily full individual pages that need to be looked at as individual pages. This is more like different styles that could work for different sections. So even on this page, again, I'm really trying to focus on the alignment here. Even the title, the kind of view switcher for this, I want it to come all the way to the edge, because I've just kind of set up this constraint as a conceptual component to the entire design. So you can use a tool like alignment to further a concept, and you can also use it to indicate ownership of some of the content from the parent content. The same way we did title with some of the children for the selectors. You just have to make sure that, if you're doing something like this, you leave enough room and enough negative space to make that full selection happen. So you can use it both conceptual, just as a nice balanced layout, but you can also use alignment for, to kind of enhance the user experience. So we're just making that more known that these things belong to that title. So for homework, for alignment homework, I want you to come up with some kind of form concept that is kind of in the ballpark of this camera form where you're selecting and you're adding things to cart. It doesn't have to be e-commerce, but maybe 3 to 5 different sections that would have a title, and maybe one's an input field, maybe the second one is a multiple choice question, and the third is a yes or no, some kind of toggle. But I want you to design a form with a button in the bottom, give it a title, and pay really close attention to your alignment of the elements, especially that left edge. When it comes into forms, the form alignment along the left edge is going to be pretty key. And so the concept, again, can be whatever you want it to be. Just make sure it has a mix of input fields, multiple selections, and maybe like a radio button or two. And you don't have to go with the full circle radio button. You can make it have its own custom style. So let's see what you come up with. Post it in Slack, get some feedback. Post it to Dribbble if you're really liking it and want to show off some of your work. So let's get started. Can't wait to see what you come up with.